Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayemi, Meseches Zevachim Daf Mem Beis. We begin on Mem Aleph Mem Beis towards the bottom, so it's 2 lines off the bottom. Meisvei, here comes a kasha. This is going to be a kasha on Reish Lakish, who explained that even Rabbi Meir, who says that when a machshava of pigul is only present during part of the process, it's sufficient to make pigul. For instance, the primary example was in the case of a mincha which has a kaimetz, so that's the scoop of dough which is placed on the mizbeach, and we have the levina, the incense which are placed on the mizbeach. So we have 2 portions for haktorah, for burning. They're both considered matirim, so they permit, so to speak, the carbon. They enable the carbon to succeed. They enable it for further consumption to the mizbeach, or in terms of the the mincha, the leftovers are fed to the kohanim. So the pigul must accompany the avodas hamater, the process which is mater the carbon. In this case, it's the kaimetz. In an animal, a carbon, it pertains to the process involving the blood, which is called a matir, because processing the blood properly enables the carbon, permits the carbon for further consumption. So you had pigul during the haktorah of kaimetz and not during the levina. What happens then? Chachamim hold it's no pigul, because pigul must cover the entire matir, not only half. Rabbi Meir says it is pigul. Why? Says Reb Shimon ben Lakish, not because. Don't think for a second that according to Reb Meir, pigul that is present during a portion of the matir process is sufficient to generate pigul. No, of course not. Even Reb Meir agrees. Pigul must cover the entire process. However, in this case where you started the matir process with a pigul thought, we assume that when you continue on to the second part, in this case the levina, or in terms of blood applications of the carbon, you started with pigul and continued. With that expressing pigul, it's irrelevant. We assume, it is assumed that you're just carrying on, you're continuing on with a pigul mindset. So in effect, pigul did cover the entire process. That was Reish Lakish's chiddush. It's not that Reb Meir allows pigul to take hold if only present during part of the matter. No, it has to cover the entire matter, but it did cover. It was there. Kala oisa, when you continue a process which you had initiated with pigul, al das rishayna oisa, it is assumed that you're just continuing on and concluding with that same track, that same mindset. In which case, really, pigul did permeate the entire matter. Here comes a kasha on that. From a brisa which will indicate to us, according to Reb Meir, as long as pigul was present somewhere along the process, even if it came in later, it wasn't there during the first step and just assumed, to have continued on. No, there was no pigul during the first couple of steps. It only came in later. That's enough to make pigul. Clearly, Reb Meir suffices with a pigul that was present during part of the matir. That's a kasha on Reish Lakish, who says otherwise. Meisvei, the brisa says like this. When do we say that a pigul thought, which is present only during one blood application, one of the many blood applications that are required, it is enough to make pigul? That's only b'dam machitzayin. Regarding karbanos whose blood is placed on the external mizbeach, where really only one application is vital, only one is absolutely necessary. So, technically, one application is sufficient to be considered a matir and can make pigul. Avol damim. However, those karbanos whose blood is placed internally, the golden mizbeach in the heichal, or furthermore, by the Aron in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, like on Yom Kippur. Kigoyin, for instance. Here come a listing of several Chatois HaPnimiyos. Arbaim v'shalosh shel Yom Kippur. The 43 blood applications on Yom Kippur. Rashi explains how 43. We have a par and a soyer, who are internal. So there are three so-called stations, 3 areas where the blood is placed. Internally, all the way in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So you have 8 of the par, 8 of the soyer, total of 16. Next stop is the outside of the pareiches, 8 and 8, another 16, total of 32. Third stage is the mizbeach, 4 corners. You mix them together and you put them on the corners, so that takes you to 36. Then the 4th station would be on top of the mizbeach. You clear the top of the mizbeach, 7 application there, a total of 43. So those 43 are absolutely critical. Or, here comes another example of an internal chatos, the par kohen Mashiach, which requires 11 applications. 7 on the pareiches, 4 on the mizbeach. Or par Helam Davar Shel Tzibur, likewise 11 applications. V'achadasa shel par kohen Mashiach, v'achadasa shel par Helam Davar Shel Tzibur. So regarding these karbanis, whose entire process is critical, it's not negotiable. You can't delete any blood application. They're all considered part and parcel of the avodas hamater and are critical to the kashrus of the carbon. In these situations, pigel, if you applied a machshava of pigel, bein b'rishona, whether it only was present during the first station, during the first set of applications, ubein b'shni, or the second set, ubein b'shlish, or the third set. So it didn't cover the entire process. It only accompanied one of the sets, the first or second or third. Oh, the second means that the first one didn't have it. The third means the first 2 didn't have it. Still, Rameh, I'm a pigel. It's full-fledged pigel. So you see clearly. The Rameh suffices with part pigel. It's not like he started with pigel and it's assumed that he continues. We're speaking about that he came in at number 2, came in at number 3. It's still pigel. That's a kasha and Rish Lakish's understanding of Rameir's shita. The Chachamim, no, even in this case, aim by kares is no kares, achi yefagel b'chal mater, until the pigel covers the entire mater. Until he made all the blood applications with pigel, with an express pigel. Ketani in any case, what does the Brisa tell us? Partial pigel, according to Rameh, works, irrespective of sequence. Pigel ben b'rishona, whether the pigel was there at first base, Ben Mishneh at second base, Ben Mishlish at third base, doesn't matter. Upalik still Rameh maintains his position that it's pigel. How does that work with Rish Lakish's explanation? Amar Bitzah bar Abin, I'll tell you how. Hocham Ma'iskin was speaking about a unique case. After he placed the internally, at the first stage, station. The blood, he tripped and the blood spilled out on the floor. Okay, what happens now? He brings a brand new par and starts fresh. Does shchita, does kabbalah, and he begins, he resumes, picks up where he left off. He puts the blood at, on the poriches, at second base, so to speak, right? And what happened was, during the shchita of this fill-in par, so to speak, this backup par, he expressed pigel during the shchita. We thought that it was during the hazah, and the question was, well, the pigel only accompanied part of the hazara, came in late. Why is it pigel? No, there was no pigel during the hazah. He completed the first phase of hazah in the Kodesh properly, no pigel. Then blood spilled out on the floor. He got a substitute animal. He did the shchita in order to generate blood to complete the hazah. It's phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, right? And at that point during the shchita, he made a pigel. Now that pigel is a full-fledged pigel, covering a complete entity, a complete process called shchita. There's nothing missing in that pigel. It's not like he was thinking pigel during part of the blood applications and not the rest. The pigul here pertain to the shechita of this backup carbon. Hacha. It's a complete single mater. The shechita is, so there's nothing missing. Well, you explained it so well, Rameir Shita, so what's the Rabbanon's opinion? Why do they oppose the pigul? I mean, this is your classic pigul. Yachi, that's the case, Ma'hamid Rabbanon, Amar Rabba. Man Chacham, you know the Chachamim are Rabbi Lezer. It's Rabbi Lezer who holds that even if it's somewhat complete, but since it's really one, component of a bigger picture, it's really just a backup animal who's coming to fill in and is coming to sort of, plug in a missing hole. So even though, from its own perspective, so to speak, the animal is completing its full role, and the shechita is a full shechita, nothing missing, but inevitably he's just a cog in the wheel. He's just a piece of a puzzle. In the totality of things, in the totality of the 43 hazois, this animal is coming in here to accommodate part of the hazois is really just accomplishing a limited role. So Rabbi Lezer would hold that's not considered complete enough. That's not comprehensive enough. It's not full enough. It's not a full matter. In which case, it can't make pigul. Because you're still missing, the rest of the picture that was not done with pigul. Amar Rav Man Chachamim Rabbi Lezer, that's not as we find elsewhere. So he talks regarding Haktoras chutz, the halacha that if one takes carbon material and brings it outside and offers it on the mizbeach outside Beis Hamikdash, he's liable to kares, right? Severe sin. But Rabbi Lezer says, look, it has to be something complete, a full carbon. It's not as we learned in the Mishnah, hakoimetz v'lavoina v'akteres. You have the koimetz, lavoina of the minch v'akteres, the incense, minchas gehanim, minchas that a kohen brings, minchas kohen Mashiach, minchas nesachim, all these types of menachis. Sheikriv ma'achas men kazayis b'chutz chayiv. So he took just a small part, kazayis, which is typically, a significant, at a minimum, kazayis is a significant shear, which is considered an act of haktorah, burning, of offering. He does it outside the Beis Hamikdash. Chayiv, because he was makrav outside. Lezer poiter? No. Lezer says he's potter, because you only did a portion of that carbon outside. You need a full carbon for it to be considered a proper, hakrava process. Until he takes the entire michan and does it outside. We see from here that even though, you think a kazayis is a sufficient amount to be considered a haktorah, and it really is. It's not enough according to Rabbi Lezer to hold him liable. Because, after all, it's just a piece of a puzzle. Until he takes the entire entity and takes it outside. Likewise, in our discussion regarding pigul, since the second animal is just filling in, is completing a limited role with respect to the bigger picture, it's not sufficient to make pigul. Asks the Gemara, what do you mean? But blood applications are really independent of each other. They're separate. They have their own identity. Each one has its own. Rava tells us that not so regarding blood application. That's very different. Even Rabbi Lezer, who discounts what he did over there with the kazayis, but when it comes to a fellow who did zrika on blood outside the Beis Hamikdash, even one blood application is chayiv. Well, you can say, what do you mean? One of many? Doesn't matter. The fact is, one matana, one blood application, we'll see in a minute, we find elsewhere, is considered important enough. And is counted as its own entity in the Beis Hamikdash. Likewise, if he does it outside, he's chayiv. When it comes to blood, it's different. Rabbi Lezer agrees it's none. Rashi explains, actually, we're correlated to a different halacha. And the objective here is to prove that, in fact, one blood application on its own could be considered chashav enough and has its own uniqueness and its own importance, as we find from Rabbi Lezer and Shimon, who discuss a kohen who was busy doing the blood, applications in on Yom Kippur, and like we said before, it spilled out in the middle. So let's say he was in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and he was supposed to do 8 applications, and he only did 3, and he tripped, and it spilled out. What does he do now? So you have to bring in new animals, no question about that. But what do you start from? Do you have to start back from beginning of the set, start with number 1, or can you pick up where you left off? You did 3 and then it spilled. Start from number 4. I say, yeah, I can start from number 4. Apparently, each matana, each blood application is considered a full avodah, a full entity. In which case, once it's done, it's done. You don't have to redo it, even though it's really part of the broader set and part of the broader arrangement of hazois. So you see that it's treated differently. Each hazois is treated as its own entity, its own like sort of avodah. And likewise, now a story where he attempted to make pigel, right back to our discussion. According to Rabbi Lezer, even if the pigel thought accompanied just part of the blood applications, that'll be enough to make pigel, according to Rabbi Lezer. And certainly in the case where there was another animal required, he did the pigel by the shechita, of course, nothing to talk about. Of course it would be pigel. So this wouldn't work. This explanation, relating it to Rabbi Lezer, explaining why there's no pigel, wouldn't work. Just the opposite, according to Rabbi Lezer. There certainly would be pigel in this case. So back to our machlokes, in a case where you only had partial pigel thoughts, accompanying part of the blood application. Rav Meir says pigel, Chacham say no pigel. Rav Meir says pigel. Okay, we explain. But why do Chacham disagree? Why is there no pigel? Elama Rava says, Rava, let me re-explain the whole brisa for you. No, we're not speaking. Right, when the brisa spoke about the internal karbanos chatas, for instance, the par v'soyer of Yom Kippur, which have a total of 43 applications, and he did pigel during the first set, or during the second set, or during the third. No, you're mistaken. It doesn't mean one or the other. Which really triggered our question, because if he did, for instance, only during the third station, and not during the first 2, how do we have pigel contra Rameir? If Rish Lakish's interpretation is correct, that even Rameir only considers a pigel because when you initiate, we assume you conclude with the same mindset. But here, he came in much later. Came late in the game. He came in at number 2, at number 3. Says Rabbi, no, that's incorrect. It's an incorrect understanding of the case. He did start with pigel. He actually started with pigel. Elam Rabbi Kohen Shepigel B'Rishayna. In fact, during that first step in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, he made pigel. V'shasak b'shniya. During the second set on the pareches, then he was silent. V'chazer pigel b'shlishus. So during the second set, Rameir holds, it's assumed that he's resuming his pigel. It's just assumed. Now the catch is v'chazer pigel b'shlishus. At his third phase, he again expressed pigel. He expressed it. He didn't leave it, for assumptions. He expressed it. And the chiddush is, even though he re-expressed it, don't think he was indicating that, I'm doing it now at number 3, but not at number 2. Number 3 was without pigel. No. He's just refreshing it, reminding us and him that it's pigel. Well, the time perhaps I can think, that in fact, he's just carrying on the same mode, on that pigel mode which he had introduced during the first phase. So why is he repeating it at the third stage? Mihadar, this repeating pigule, repeating the pigel element, b'shlishus during the third phase. Lamali, why is that? Why is he doing that? Kamashman, the point is, he's just making sure that we know what right? He's just confirming it. So again, he had pigel during the first phase, was silent during phase 2. rehash the pigul during phase 3, we don't take it as an indication that during phase 2 it was without pigul. No. If you start with pigul, certainly when you enter the pigul as well, we assume, right? So it fits well with Rish Lakish's explanation in Reb Meir. In the case where you start off the process with pigul, we assume that you concluded likewise. Maskav Rav Ashi, midi shasaktani. Let's take a look at the wording of the Brisa. It says, pigul was present during the first phase, or second, or third. It doesn't say that he was silent in the middle. He started with pigul, silent in the middle, and it doesn't say that. Right? The Brisa clearly is indicating that there was pigul during first, or second, or third. Not first, third, and not second. El Rav Ashi. So Rashi will present a slightly different variation of this teretz, so that it's consistent with the lashon of the Brisa, but still would fit well with our understanding of Reb Meir that when you initiate, we presume that you conclude. Yeah, in fact, he clearly expressed his pigul all throughout, all 3 phases. Now, actually, there are 4 phases involved. 1 is Kodesh HaKadosh, 2 is Parechas, 3rd is Mizbeach, the corners and the top, and then there's a 4th. Sorry, the corners, and then there's a 4th on top of the Mizbeach. And he was silent during that 4th phase. So he expressed pigul during 1, 2, and 3, but not during 4. And the Chiddush of Reb Meir is, it's assumed that in fact everything, including step 4, was with pigul. And the Brisa is seeking to highlight a Chiddush, that even this fellow, who expressed during 1, 2, and 3, but just decided to omit 4, don't think he is sending any messages. To the contrary. Because perhaps I can think otherwise. In fact, he's just simply carrying on in the manner that he initiated, meaning his mindset is pigul till the finish line. Mahadar piguli b'chol chad lamli. Why did he trouble himself to express pigul during 2, 3? Once he did it during number 1. It's assumed. So perhaps you can say, you can argue, that he was specific. He specifically wanted pigul to apply to 1, 2, and 3, and not to 4. And you don't have him till the finish line. Kamash, when the point of the Brisa is to say no. He got tired. But of course he meant that his pigul will carry on till the end. And that fits well with Reb Meir. So again, certainly, according to Reb Meir, you can't be mefagal with just half the process. It must cover the entire process. But it's assumed. Right? Once you initiate, you assume that it carries on till the end. Asks the Gemara, but take a look at the lashon of the Brisa. It says either or. You're saying that he had his machshavas pigul all throughout. First, second, and third phases. V'bein katani. The Brisa says bein b'rishayna. Bein b'shnei, which means either or. Kasha, that's a kasha on the pshat that we just said. Amar mar. Now, according to Rashi, we're shifting gears. We're going to entertain the other approach in understanding Reb Meir. The reason why Reb Meir considers it pigul, when the pigul was only present during part of the process, like the part of the haktorah of the mincha, the kaimetz, not the levina, is because he holds you can do that. Mefaglir b'chatzi mater. Yeah. Even if the pigul only attach yourself to part of the mater, part of the process, it's enough to make pigul. Amamar Reb Meir Eimer. So again, back to this Brisa where we had the pigul accompany part of the blood process. Reb Meir says it's pigul. Okay, so let's just picture it. He had a pot of Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, he took the blood, went into Kodesh HaKadoshim, applied the matanis in there, the 8 of each animal, with the machshava of pigul. But then when he came out to the next phase, to the parechas, to apply the same blood there, he skipped pigul. When he did the mizbeach, without pigul. Reb Meir says that's enough to make pigul. Pigul on part makes pigul on the whole. Pigul v'chayav kares. Now comes an interesting question. We all know that, we learned this many times, that in order to produce a pigul carbon, the kohen must follow a very specific set of rules. The carbon has to be processed till the very end. You can't just abort the process in the middle. So let's say you had a machshav of pigul during the shechita of a carbon. Then he decided to stop the carbon right there. There's no pigul. Pigul only happens when he completes the process till the very end with a machshav of pigul. So now, in our case, when he applied the blood in the Kodesh HaKadoshim with a machshav of pigul, okay, so far so good, so bad, right? Provided, there's a condition, provided that he completes the rest of the phases of the blood applications on the pareches, on the hechel, right? But the thing is now that if he sort of has completed the pigul element, according to the Meir, that segment that was done with pigul and the Kodesh HaKadoshim was enough to generate pigul. So he's finished with his pigul thoughts, so to speak, but he still has to complete the process till the end. He has to apply all the applications of the avodas hadam, of the matir. So now he takes this blood, which has sort of become disqualified by way of the machshav of pigul, takes it out of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, takes the same very material, the same blood, and applies it on the pareches, as required. You can argue, you can say that he hasn't done anything, because technically he's taking disqualified blood and trying to resume a hakrava process and take it to the finish line, which is a precondition for activating pigul. But he hasn't done anything. He's using disqualified material. So that's the question. Michti. Let's analyze this case further. Kares lemechai. There's no chi of kares, meaning the true pigul status on a carbon only will get applied, will get sort of activated upon completing the full hakrava process. In this case, all the blood applications, all 43 of them. Until all the matira, meaning all the aspects of the avodah process, in this case the blood applications, have to be completed. Though, as we learned, similar to the way a kosher carbon is processed, likewise a pasel, a pigul carbon. Ma'atzas kosher, just like by a proper carbon, it will only be so until all the material are properly processed. Afatzaras pasel, likewise, to generate a pigul carbon ad sheyikru kol material, until all the material are properly processed. In order to generate a successful, so to speak, pigul carbon, you have to complete the process. In this case, all 43 blood applications. But your blood is no longer qualified for use because you already tainted it by way of the machshav of pigul, which took place in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. How can you use it further for the hechel, for the mizbeach? But in this case, kivan the chashav b'fnim psula. Due to the machshav of pigul in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the blood is now pasal kamad le adi dami. So it's like he never really did a proper application, meaning when he takes that blood to the next phase, to the hech, the next station, to resume the matanos, he has nothing to work with. This blood has been disqualified. It was used as part of the pigul process. It's like he's spraying water. Maya ba'alma. Some take out the kamantali adidami, those 4 words. But in any case, the message is the same. The point is, the blood that was used for pigul in the Kodesh HaKadoshim is worthless as far as we're concerned for further use. As far as we're concerned, there was no hazah, it was just disqualified, so you can't use it anymore. So how could you even get to complete the process to generate a successful pigul carbon? Amar Rabbi, you're right. Inevitably, we're speaking that there were many animals used. After he applied the blood in the Kodesh HaKadoshim with a pigul thought, the blood, he tripped and the blood spilled on the floor. And we learned before what happens. A new carbon is required, new animal. Does a shechita, gets new blood to provide him with blood for the pareches. So this new blood is kosher blood, so to speak. And that allows him to complete the process properly. The reason why he says 4, and 4 is just it's like an extreme example. Even if it happened 4 times, it's spelled out, and it requires 4, because there are 4, like we said, there are 4 stages here, 4 steps, 4 stations, sets of blood applications in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and on the Pareches, on the Mizbech, on top of the Mizbech. So technically, at most you can have 4 animals, 1 per station, 4 cows and 4 goats. But the point is the same. This new blood is unaffected, so to speak, by the previous experience. So now, as long as he completes all 43, using the new blood of new animals, so he has technically completed the hakrava process, the avodas hamater, and that will trigger a successful pigul, due to the pigul thoughts that were present during the first phase, i.e. in the Kodesh HaKadosh. Rava Amar says, no, don't bother with 4. Afilu tema par echad v'sar echad. It will work even using the same blood of the same original par, the same original sar. As to your question, what do you mean the blood has become disqualified when he made, pigul, the Kodesh HaKadoshim, it could not be used any further? It could. The fact is, the Torah considers the activity in the Kodesh HaKadoshim as hakrava, activity. The fact is, it generates pigul. It's perverted avodah. It's misconstrued, but it's considered, so to speak, valid to a certain extent to make pigul, so it counts as hakrava. In which case, that same blood can be used further to complete the process, to get you to the finish line. And once you finish all 43, you have completed avodas hamater, and you have your pigul. Now, this is just a numbers question here. A side point, the Brisa mentioned 43, but really, in the other Brisa we have 47. How many applications were there regarding the blood of the par v'soyer on Yom Kippur? So we spoke about 16 in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, 16 on the Pareches. Then we have 4 more on the corners of the Mizbeach. There's a machlokes whether they would mix the 2 bloods, the par v'soyer, together and apply 4, total of 4, or was it applied separately? So you get another 4. It's 4 from each. That takes you from 43 to 47 in total. The Brisa spoke about 43, Abarim v'shalish. Vatani, we have another Brisa, Abarim v'shevet, says 47 as the total. Al-Kamanda Omar ma'arvin l'kronis. Our Brisa, with a lower number, follows the opinion that they would mix the bloods together for the corners. V'Kamanda Omar ein ma'arvin l'kronis, but the Brisa, which speaks about 47, holds that they would not mix them together for the corners. That gives you another 4 for a total of 47. But there's a Brisa which actually cites 48 as a total. Vatanya bar mishmoyin, how do you get to 48? Hokman Omar sharai ma'akvin. Going to the opinion that pouring the leftover bloods after you finished all 47, leftovers on the base of the mizbeach, it's ma'akiv, it's critical to the process regarding a chatas hapnimis. So it goes into the count. Hokman Omar in sharai ma'akvin al Brisa. The total of 47 holds that the shrine is not ma'akiv. He meant to do it, but it's not ma'akiv. So it's not on this list of critical applications. Meisvei comes a kash. This is back on Rish Lakish, who had given us that other approach to Rav Meir. Even Rav Meir requires the pigul thoughts to accompany the entire matir process. So let's say by a mincha you have the kaimetz on the mizbeach, the lavoin on the mizbeach. You have to be thinking pigul all throughout. It's just that when you start with pigul, it's assumed that you're just carrying on, even though you haven't expressed it. Here comes a brisa which indicates otherwise. It's a Tosefta Maseches Menachos, which will indicate to us pretty clearly that it's not so. According to Rav Meir, it's not like it's assumed and it's covered the whole thing. No, even if the machshava of pigul clearly was only present during part of the matter, it's enough to make pigul. When do we say? This is by a mincha, right? So the mincha was, a dough, a flour, and oil. The kohen would do a kmitza, scoop some of that dough out, take the kmitza material, put it in a kli. So the process of a mincha sort of mirrors the process of an animal carbon. There would be a shchita, that's like kmitza. There would be matan kabbalah, it's matan kli. There would be a haylacha, transporting it to the mizbeach. So that relates to the kmitza. And then there would be something called haktar. Haktar really relates to both, to kmitza which would be put on the mizbeach, and then there would be haktorah on the levina as well. Levina doesn't need a scooping and then a kli. It's just one haktorah, one act with the levina. You put the incense on the mizbeach. Now, if pigul only accompanied the avodah of the kaimets, do we have pigul? Well, it depends. If it's an activity which only involves the kaimets, sure. That pigul thought during that part of the process is sufficient to generate pigul. You're not missing anything. But if it was during the haktorah, the burning, the placing on the mizbeach, which really entails two parts. There's a portion of the mincha which is called the kaimetz, placed on the mizbeach, a portion which is called levina, placed on the mizbeach. So there, the pigul should really be accompanying both parts. Otherwise you're missing some pigul thought. But when do we say that thinking pigul during kaimetz involvement is sufficient to make pigul b'kmitza when he's doing the kmitza? Matan kli, or placing the kmitza in the kli, transporting to the mizbeach, which are unique to the kaimetz. But when he's approaching the haktorah, which has two parts, haktorah of the kaimetz, haktorah of levina, there it's different. Because there the activity gets broadened to incorporate the levina as well. That also has to be covered by the pigul thought. So let's say nasan sa kaimetz machshava, that's levina mishtika. He was marked at the kaimetz with a pigul thought, but part B, the levina, was done in silence. Or the opposite. Or the kaimetz was done with silence, and the levina was done with machshava pigul. In both cases, even the second case, right, where pigul came in at number 2, came in late. Pigul v'chayam al kares is pigul and this kares. Chachamim disagree. Ain't by kares. There's no kares. There's no real pigul. Until unless the pigul accompanies the entire matter. In this case, both components, levina and kaimetz. Let's focus on Rameir for a second. In any case, what did Rameir tell us? Even in the case of as kaimetz b'shtik, of as levina machshava, kaimetz was done quietly, and only later on did he come in with the pigul during the levina. Upalag Rameir still stands true to his position and considers a pigul. Apparently, even partial pigul is enough. Because unlike the previous cases, where we learned that he started with the pigul and it's assumed that he's here, a pigul came in late. At phase 2 only. No, let's revise our understanding of the brisa. Kvar nosens levina machshava. We're speaking that. In the second case, what happened was the levina was in fact first. When it says that the kaimetz was b'shtika, it's levina machshava, that wasn't the order of things. It wasn't quiet and then pigul. No. The kaimetz was done quietly because he had already done the levina before that with a machshava of pigul. And certainly, once you initiate with pigul, it's assumed that it carried on throughout the whole process till the end. It's a bit hard to learn. It's a bit difficult to learn the brisa this way. Chada, firstly, Taina Reisha, because this is exactly a carbon copy of the first case. The brisa was citing 2 cases with apparent differences between the 2, right? Apparently, to varieties the case, and here you're telling me that the second case is almost an exact carbon copy of the first case. Right? The first case was kaimetz was with pigul, and the levina was done quietly. And according to you, the second case is very similar. The levina was done with pigul, and the kaimetz was done quietly. So in both cases, he started with pigul and concluded quietly. What's the point of repeating, Furthermore, Hatanya, we have another brisa which clearly tells us in its wording, what happened afterwards. It was sequenced in this way. The kaimetz was quietly, and afterwards came the levina with a machshava. So clearly, levina, the pigul came in second, mid-process, and it's still pigul. Kasha, it's a kasha. On this understanding of Rameir. In this brisa, we see clearly. According to Rameir, mefaglin b'chatzi mater, even if the pigul only accompanied part of the mater, even if it came in the middle, at phase 2, it's sufficient to make pigul. Okay, so today's daf revolved around how to understand Rav Meir's shita, who allows a partial pigul to activate pigul. Rish Lakish's understanding was, no, it's not like partial is enough. You need full pigul on the full process. It's just that when you start with pigul, we assume it carries on till the end. But the Gemara has a kasha from this price where it indicates otherwise. That takes us to the other pshat Rav Meir. According to Rav Meir, you can be mefagal b'chatzi mater. Conscious to the Rabbanon hold that unless the pigul accompanies the entire mater process. So for instance, by a mincha, during the Aktorah, pigul has to accompany the Aktorah of the Kometz and the Levina. In terms of blood animal karbanos, the chatos apnimiyos, which have, let's say, 43 blood applications, you have to be thinking pigul throughout all 43. That's the only way to generate pigul. All the best to you and Hatzlacha Rabbah.